Hi everyone, it's Rabbi Asch, and I am thrilled to reboot our 10 Minutes of Torah series with the Center for Small Town Jewish Life. We are coming back to you now that we are after Passover, and we will be, rabbis from around Maine will be teaching about Judaism, and these videos will be coming to you on Mondays and Thursdays, the days that we traditionally read Torah. Many of us are going to be teaching about Pirke Avot, the ethics of the sages. This is a wisdom literature. It's part of the Mishnah. And they are statements and teachings from rabbis living around the beginning of the Common Era. This is ethical principles and not case law, and gives us an insight into the worldview of the rabbis. And many of the teachings from this book of Pirke Avot have made their way into Judaism today. Many of you have heard Hillel's famous quote, "If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? If not now, when?" That comes from this book. And in addition, many of us have sung Al Shlosha Devarim, right? Al Shlosha Devarim, Al HaTorah, V'al HaAvodah, V'al Gemilut HaSadim. That also comes from Pirkei Avot. And it's traditionally studied between Passover and Shavuot, where we are now. So this is a perfect time for study. So I am translating Pirkei Avot as the ethics of the sages, following a wonderful article by Rabbi Barry Block, who encourages us not to emphasize the gender of the speakers. And I wanted to start today with an introduction, Pirkei Avot 1:1, and also to recommend to you, I don't know if this is going to look right, ta-da! Pirkei Avot, a social justice commentary by Rabbi Shmuley Yanklowitz, which is a really great resource if you're interested in studying. So we're going to start with Pirkei Avot 1:1, the very beginning, and it talks about a chain of tradition. So it says, Moses received the Torah from Sinai and transmitted it to Joshua, and Joshua to the elders, and the elders to the prophets, and the prophets transmitted it to the men of the great assembly. And they said three things: be deliberate in judgment, develop many students, and make a fence around the Torah. So we have this chain of tradition at the very beginning of the book that comes from Moses, who received the Torah, obviously from God, at Sinai, all the way down to the men of the great assembly. And we hear about them and what they think, and the implication, of course, is that that chain of tradition continues to us today. Rabbi Linkowitz points out that there are two dangers to the Torah today. He says the first danger is distorting tradition so that our ancestors wouldn't recognize it. So that's kind of one end. And that the other end, the other danger, is freezing tradition so that it has no relevance to us today. And he says that the sages of Pirkei Avot caution against both of these. That they say that we both need tradition and we need to be able to reinvent tradition to make it relevant today in ways that people hundreds of years ago might not have even envisioned. And in this time of great disruption in life, and in Jewish life as well, when we are moving online, when we are not able to meet in person for life cycle events or meals or an oneg, many of the things that are core to us, gathering together physically in a community, have been disruptive. And yet we have managed to keep that chain of tradition, right? We have found ways to say Kaddish, even if we're not in the same room, right? We've had responsa from various rabbinic movements that have said that we still need to have 10 people that we can see and hear to say this prayer. We have had Passover Seders. We've connected with loved ones virtually. The transmitters of tradition, we read about in Pirkei Avot, did not imagine our world today, just as we, frankly, did not imagine the world that we are living in. Perhaps 2 months ago, we didn't picture that this was our reality. So I want to take a look at the second part of this first section to see what they have to offer us in a time of change and disruption. The first thing they said is be deliberate in judgment, right? Treat others with a sense of fairness and grace and generosity, and give people the benefit of the doubt. And when many of us are living in tight quarters with other people, or are only talking to people on the phone, I think that that is something that we can all remember, to be deliberate in our judgment and not to rush to judgment. The second thing, as they said, is develop many students, right? Continue to teach education, Torah study, religious school, study on our own. All of those things we need to be able to keep doing in this time to really keep not only learning for ourselves, but also transmitting our thoughts and our knowledge and our ideas on to other people, whether they're people in our house or they're people that we're seeing virtually during our Torah studies or our other Jewish learning that we're doing. And the third thing they said is make a fence for the Torah. Right? Torah, tradition, learning, needs to be at the center of what we do. And I think we can broadly define Torah here as teachings that are in the ancient texts, but also wisdom that we are finding from so many sources, both Jewish and non-Jewish, in this time, that we need to remember to safeguard and look to that tradition. All right, I want to teach one more text before I go. This is Pirke Avot 2:4. And I'm going to read it and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Hillel said, "Do not separate yourself from the community. Do not believe in yourself until the day you die. Do not judge your fellow until you have reached their place. Do not say something will never be understood, for eventually it will be understood. And do not say, when I am free, I will study, for perhaps you will never become free." Often also translated as, do not say, when I have leisure, I will study, for perhaps you will not have leisure. This particular piece of Pirke Avot was in the Siddur, the prayer book for Friday night services that we used when I was in college. And it always stuck with me, the last piece about not studying when you have leisure, because I was spending a whole lot of time in my secular studies and not a lot of time on my Jewish studies. And it was always kind of a reminder to me that I wanted to also be studying Judaism and engaging in the Jewish community. And I think that there's also a broader caution in this now about waiting for the right moment to do what you love to do, and to learn what you want to learn, right? And that goes in concert with this idea of not being sure of yourself until the day of your death, which I think provides a caution to us that we don't know what the future holds, right? Which we have certainly seen over the last few months. So this is not in any way a suggestion from me to make use of your pandemic time to learn a foreign language or to perfect or take up a new musical instrument or to become a master baker, right? For many of us, this time is more stressful, and ironically, we feel like we have less time perhaps than we did before this whole thing started. But I think that what this text brings to me today, and I hope is meaningful to you, is that a reminder that we shouldn't wait until the situation is perfect to do the things that we love to do. Now, for the rabbis, the most important thing was obviously Torah study and study of Jewish texts. And that might be the most important thing to you, and that would be wonderful. But there might be other things that are also very important to you that you're passionate about. And I think as we look forward to a future that looks a little bit uncertain, when we're not really sure when this is going to end or how many stages it's going to take for us to get back to the way we were living our lives in January and February, we have this teaching from Pirke Avot that says, don't wait until things go back to what they were like in January and February, if they ever do, until you find some time to do the things that you love. And maybe try to make a little bit more time for those things that you're passionate about and that give you happiness and that help to give you meaning and purpose during this time of uncertainty. So it was great to be able to share a little bit of Torah with all of you, and I hope that you will tune in and learn from all of my colleagues who are going to be teaching in the coming months.